What's up, everybody? Today is Friday, May 8th, and you are hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. As always, you can hang out with us on Twitter at our hashtag CMGR Hangout, where I know some of you are watching right now, so hey, Twitter peeps. If you love what you're seeing today and you have a great idea for a topic, please head over to our website, www.mycmgr.com. See how I threw in that old school www like that. But click on participate and fill out the form. We'll get your info. We'll get back to you. It's really your ideas that keep the show rolling every Friday. So we've talked about, in the past, we've talked about transitioning into a community career from another industry, but we've never really covered how to transition from one community role to another, and really, you know, what does it take to be successful? So there's been a lot of movement in our industry lately, and it seems like the right time to tackle this topic. So with that, I am going to let our awesome panel just introduce themselves, starting with the amazing Sherry.
Who, as always, is not prepped for that lead off. Hey everyone, I'm Sherry. I co-produce CMGR Hangout here with Brew and Dom, and am now the community manager for Magento.
Hey everybody, I feel so good because we got the three amigos. We're all here, all co-producers, so this is awesome. Now with 33% more co-producers. But yeah, I'm Dom. I am a community manager for BTC Revolutions, and I am stoked for this awesome panel. Awesome panel.
Awesome. Hello, I'm Debbie. I was previously the community manager at 2 startups, so I was on the ground level of both of them. I transitioned from a review website startup into a travel startup to a Fortune 20 hardware company recently, so this topic is very fresh in my life right now, so I'm excited to chat with you all about it. Passing it off.
Hey everybody, I'm David Dewald, community manager, recent community manager at Bit9 plus Carbon Black. So I'm in tail end of week 3, so definitely into a new role.
Hi guys, I'm Kristen Cardos, and I am the community manager for Social Business Hour, and I am also newish in my role, so I'm pretty excited to be here today. Also, I just quickly want to object again to me talking after David, because he's so, like, broadcaster, but I'm happy to be here.
He's got that great radio voice. Awesome. Well, hey, to add to the awesome count, right? I am Brew, Director of Awesome with Be the Change Revolutions, and co-producer here with Dom and Sherry. So yeah, I guess let's just kick it off with our first question right away, which is, how do you mentally create a clear separation between your previous role and your new role? Because I got to imagine that's kind of tough. Debbie, what was it like for you?
Yeah, I actually had to take a little sabbatical from my old community before transitioning into my new one. It almost, I hate to use this word, but it felt a little like a breakup, even though it was very amicable, but like I felt I needed that time away so that like when I do go back into the community, I can be a member there and not a community manager. But that being said, like being the community manager, I grew to be very close to some of the people there. So, and in some cases, or in my case, like I was kind of the face of my last company, so a lot of people still associated me with them even when I left. So I'm still getting tweets and Facebook messages, and from like old community members who want to hang out or have questions about the community, I'll send them off to the new community manager over there. And some people still want to meet up for a coffee, and I think that's totally great. I mean, it makes me feel good that people still come to me. It makes me feel like I did a good job as a community manager. But yeah, to mentally create space between my old job and my new one. I just take a little time away from being on the platform.
I know for me, I had about a week break between the first job and the new job, or the last job and the new job. But for the most part, I think I separated okay. But my wife made an interesting point, is that when I was talking about the last job, I would still say we. I would still say our and we, when actually I'm not with them, anymore. So, she said, hey, I just noticed you said this a lot when you're on your calls and talks, so keep an eye on it. And I thought it was a really great point that, to me, I'm still a part of that community. It's still part of me, in the past I've said you can leave a community, but the community never leaves you. And I guess that's it.
True. My answer is basically similar to those. In my case, I've been in and out of community for a really long time, but in and out, and it's just always kind of happened that there was sort of a break in between that I didn't have to really mentally insert. It just sort of happened. It's the FedEx guy. So.
I think that's really interesting what you said there. What you said there, David, was you can leave a community, the community never leaves you. I think that is a good test, though, at least in hindsight, if you feel like you're a good fit for the community. My first one, where I led a community, I did my best work that I could, but when I had the opportunity and there was something else that came up, I didn't. It felt very amicable on both sides, but at the same time, I didn't feel like that really strong pull there. And I think that said something about how close you were with the community in the first place. That's a great feeling, like what you're talking about and what Debbie's talking about, to have people that are asking you out for coffee or still tweeting at you, or you still feel it. Like then you know that you really did good work there, and that's the type of stuff that you can sort of model when you're moving into your new community. It's like, what did I actually do? What happened to really be able to have those feelings years later, or months, weeks after you've even left?
Well, it really is. It's like you broke that veil between, we have this wall between us that's a computer screen, and if somebody says, hey, let's go get coffee, it means that somehow, you made a connection somewhat stronger than just the screen in front of you and words on a page. There's a real human connection there.
Here's a crazy idea. What about change your playlist? I know it sounds kind of crazy, right? But I mean, at least from my angle, especially in developing voice, for a specific brand, I find music kind of helps me out. Listening to a certain type of music to get me in the mood of while I'm doing the community management, and so yeah, I don't know. I just kind of threw that out there. What about music? What about actually changing up changing up your routine that way? Does that make sense at all? Or?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And even just how the music might tie into routine and shaking that up. One of the first things that I'm still working on it, I won't lie, since I started my role that I have now, is actually trying to come up with my battle rhythm because it's not a set, except for live events, it's not a set schedule. I have a lot of leeway on how and when I do things. So one of the things I had to do was sit down and just sort of literally, like with a pencil, write in, okay, when I want to do certain things and kind of set up a schedule. And that's very different from what I was doing before. So.
And I think that the one thing you said, Brew, like the changing of your playlist, it sort of reminded me, like, when I'm working, and like, I know it's not like a clear break of community, but when I'm working from home myself. If you do have that sort of a luxury and you are remote, like, you do want to sort of change up your space. You want to move things around, even if it's something as simple as moving around furniture or just changing around that kind of stuff, just so that you do feel different. Because, I mean, I know this is sort of going off of last week's topic, but when you're in a relationship, the last thing your new girlfriend wants to hear is nothing but stories about your old girlfriend. And if you feel like you're in the exact same space and you're just doing the exact same thing, just in a with a different person, that's not really going to work. So, even if it's something that for this hangout, instead of work, I shift my desk so I'm facing a different direction, and it, gets me into a different mindset than when I'm just working, with brand stuff. So anything you could sort of do to give yourself that clean slate, a new perspective, I think is definitely super helpful.
Well, and I was just making sure we don't have a question about this, but just to sort of add to this thread we're on is, how often do you find yourselves sort of peeking back at the old community, and is that good or bad?
I
All the
think it
time.
kind of depends on the community. So for me, with Sweet Tooth, I peeked back all the time. But this role, I mean, I've actually only been gone from my previous role a week, even though it's my third week at my new company, which is why I didn't really address the first question, because clearly I did not make that clear separation. But I can't say that I really reflected back on it, because I'm so like in-depth zoned into the new community that it doesn't actually really cross my mind, to be completely honest.
Okay, well, I had a job that wasn't a community manager job, though there were pieces of my responsibilities that kind of were community manager related. I worked with a gigantic group of United States Marines, and I am not letting go of them. I'm keeping them. I have like 500 Facebook friends that are Marines that I work with, and they've all moved on to different units and things like that. They're still a community to me, and they're still a community that I actually belong to in my own way. But I can keep that and not necessarily be disloyal to what I'm doing now. It's almost an apples to oranges comparison. But I think that depends on what type of role you're moving from and into. It happened again. Sorry.
It sounds like a grizzly bear. Yeah, but so when I was leaving my last company, I was actually offered to be a contractor there part-time, but I decided to decline on that because I felt like I needed a clean break, and I didn't want to be married to having to check in all the time. But even though I'm not officially a contractor or a part of the company anymore, I still feel like I'm very much a part of that family still. I built the community. I was a part of it for several years. So even so, when I said earlier that I had to leave the platform for a little bit, that didn't mean that I wasn't, like, if I got pinged that I got a new comment or a vote or something, I wasn't going in to like check and respond to it. I definitely did that. I mean, I made friends there, so I want to keep those relationships going.
So let's switch gears and talk about culture for a minute. Who do you turn to in order to help you understand the company culture? So you're at a new place. Do you just walk up to HR and be like, "Hey, give me the culture handbook, please," or so what are some ways you can get just dive into culture?
I guess where I am, I'm pretty fortunate. They have a 2-day like class, so to speak, that kind of gets you up to speed on what's going on within the company and in the culture as well. I mean, literally, I think it's called Neo, but we have an HR person that's strictly there for managing culture. It's really kind of cool. So. I mean, for me, it's pretty easy. I've got a number of people I can reach out to. But I mean, first of all, I'd reach out to my boss. My who I'm newly reporting to. They're going to have a good idea of, how you should behave and how they expect you to behave and those kinds of things.
I think too, it's really important to build friendships like kind of. Let me think of my directions for a second here. Horizontally too, not just vertically, because they're going to be able to be really helpful to you as well, to be able to let you know kind of like who to talk to about certain things, and just to let them know that you're friendly and you want to be there too, and you're not trying to like step on anyone's toes or anything.
Yeah, I like the point about horizontal because I do all of this by feel, and like David was talking about, like a more structured situation where you kind of know who to go to for what, and they spell out for you. You know, this is our vision, our mission statement, all that kind of good stuff. And sometimes you have that, sometimes you don't. But I always have a way of just sort of, I keep my head down at first. I look around, I pay attention, and I usually just by feel figure out who's a person in the organization that I can kind of shoot the bull with and start having a little bit more of a conversation with that person. And they could be a supervisor, a subordinate, or, you know, a peer. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, culture fit is really important to me. So before I even started working here or applied for the job, I was reading reviews on Glassdoor, and then when I was finally interviewing, I made sure to like ask everyone about their day to day and like, you know, what time do you typically get in the office or leave? Like, do you guys have team outings? Do you guys have lunch together? I think you can't tell on webcam, but like I actually have like hot pink hair on the bottom. So I'm at a 75-year-old tech company. I wanted to make sure that was okay. So during one of the interviews over the phone, I asked them, like, I have a weird question. It's about my hair, but like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything. I don't want to seem unprofessional, but like, this is what my hair is like. Like, would it be okay there? And then the woman like responded. She's like, "Oh my God, we need more people with hot pink hair here." And I was like, "That's a company that I want to be a part of." I mean, I'm not married to like my hair color or anything, but I think it's cool that they embrace their employees' diversity or personality or whatever word you want to use to describe that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I also think, you know, from a culture standpoint, I think sometimes you can just sort of um, find your Yoda. You know, just you know, there's always, I think at a lot of different companies, there's always that one person, or sometimes more than one person, but always someone who wants to sort of bring the new person under their wing, show them the ropes, you know, kind of let them know what's going on. So.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what the other folks on the panel were saying. You can learn a lot just by observing and talking to people.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, everybody who's watching us over on Twitter, please keep your questions coming. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome, and know that if you tweet us, make sure to either tag Dom, Sherry, or my CMGR, just so we definitely see it. But we'll bring in your question, and with that, we'll actually bring in a question right now from Jen Chen. Jen, thanks for hanging out with us as always on Fridays. Jen asks, what are your tips when there are changes in the company or organization or team? You guys got any tips for what about just change in the organization? No one's got a tip.
I do.
Oh, there we go. Go for it.
And some of this is so like in line with what we do and the things that we say are good ideas for community managers anyway. But you know, listen a lot. Less talking, more listening, because you need to get a feel for who the new people are, if it's new people, or why. So what's happening and why, and then who are the players? Because sometimes you may be dealing with a certain type of person one day, and then the new person is completely different. So I think it goes back to the observation and the kind of patiently paying attention. I'm not saying that you have to hold back and not be who you are, but you need to pay attention. You need to listen and get a feel for who the people are and the what and the why that's going on.
And I think it's important to note that that's the case whether you're coming in at the bottom of the food chain or the top in that case. Like if your team or your organization is changing structurally, like no matter what end of that you're on, you still need to listen and really.
By the way, this is totally taking us off topic, but I do have to mention the fact that over on Twitter, as soon as I said, talked about Yoda and Find Your Yoda, um, Jen Chen actually says that she's never seen Star Wars. So that just surprised me. I thought it was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Star Wars.
Jen, you officially have until I believe it's Christmas to catch up on it. Don't worry about 1, 2, or 3. Let's just go with episodes 4, 5, and 6. Okay?
Yeah. 1, 2, and 3 were just an accident.
They were.
I think I saw somebody post the other day like, oh, I just sat down with my kids and watched Star Wars in the order it was meant to be, 4, 5, and 6, then 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 again, so we could forget about 1, 2, and 3.
I think George Lucas was just like behind on a rent payment, so he made 1, 2, and 3. Like that's the only explanation.
All right. So, anyways, what about? Okay, so we just talked about finding, who do you turn to in the company to find out the culture? But what about figuring out the community culture? So, who do you turn to then to figure out like what you're about to step in?
Me, I when I was getting hired, they said, what's the first thing you're going to do in the community? And I said, nothing. I said, I'm going to spend 2 weeks reading everything I can find and watching new posts, old posts, and just how the community works and how, what are their rites of passage? What are the ways that they do things? Are there any in-jokes that they have established already? And, if I find something that kind of stumps me, I don't understand what they're doing, I'll find somebody closely related in the company, that can say, I can say, what's this mean? What do they mean by this? But for me, it's observation for 2 weeks. I just take it all in, and then I feel like I've got a good handle of how things work and how I should enter the community. And when I do enter the community, the first day I might say, hello, I'm new. And that's it. And then, or maybe I'll wait. This time I waited, and 2 weeks later I came in and said, hi, I'm new here. I've been looking around for a while. Tell me what you think we can do to improve things around here. Or what can we do to make it better? And just go from there. And that starts a good conversation. So, the first thing that you're doing in the community is saying, what can we do to make it better? I think that's a great way to start.
I'm with David. Like, I learned the lay of the land before I jumped in. Didn't want to upset anyone or do anything that wasn't best practice. And also, I was lucky that there was also another community manager already on board, so he was my mentor, and we have a list. We have these guys we call experts, and they're like our top 1% of super users, and he just ran me through the entire list and, told me about his relationship with them, like some history, like maybe how they got into the community, who's buddies with who, etc. That was really helpful.
Yeah, I agree with the previous answers about observing. There's already something going on there, unless it's a new community, which is totally different, but there's already something going on there, so you don't want to get in there and disrupt the ecosystem. You want to observe, and if it's a lengthy process coming on board, you might have a chance to observe before you ever sort of jump into the community. If not, then it's about kind of being a little bit more quiet in the beginning and just paying attention, see what's going on.
Mine was an interesting situation this time because I've actually been a part of this community from the very beginning. And on top of that, my first day of work was at our annual international conference in Vegas. So I couldn't really just sit back and watch, but it was a really great place to be able to just kind of celebrate the new role with community members that I've known for years, and also a really good chance to meet new community members in person, face to face. Which was a really, really awesome, Dom, stop complaining. It was a really awesome situation to have. But that being said, still, when it comes back to looking at the new forms and everything, so our forums were actually down for a couple of years, and they just brought them back a couple months before I started there. So even still, when I did start, it was more of still more of an approach where it's just kind of taking it all in, observing it, seeing who's there now, because it's been a couple years, so like it could reset. There could be some of the old faces still there. There could be a lot of new faces, and just kind of getting a feel for what people are missing from the old forums that should be there, or whether it's not necessary, and just taking in a lot of feedback.
I'm going to bring in 2 more questions real quick here. So Adam asks, does anyone else do phishing tweets? Just a blatant, benign attempt to see what kind of response you get.
You mean like asking the community's opinion on something? If that's the case, yeah, all the time.
And Michael asks, here's a question for the panel. Have you ever been pushed to go faster than you felt comfortable for orientation?
I'll jump in here. I would say, yes, but I don't think that it was necessarily a bad thing. I think that a lot of times there's a fine line here. There's a lot of times where when you're getting into a new community, you know, a lot of times when people are bringing you on, there's a need for you. And so they want to try to get you onboarded very quickly so you can start doing what they know you can do pretty quick. Not every company has the luxury of giving you a 3-week onboarding period. So sometimes you do get that trial by fire. I know right now with where I work, where Brew works, that happens from time to time. There's a big need. Clients need a lot of work, so you get thrown right in, so that does happen from time to time, but it's not always a bad thing. If you're being very, very vocal with who's onboarding you and the company you're bringing in, I think that getting pushed outside of your comfort zone can be a good thing. So I wouldn't necessarily look at it as a negative all the time.
But I would say that as a pro, like community manager, I think you have the right to push back if you really think it's too fast. I mean, you're the expert. They hired you. They brought you on board. They want you to do what you do. And if you feel like it's just too fast, I think it's okay to say, I think it's too fast. Even if they come back and say, tough nuts, you're going to have to do it. But I think it's okay to push back a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you should be able to say why, like why this is a good idea. Like I need to observe so that I do understand the culture of the community and I have like a smooth like entrance into it and everything. Because if they're not familiar with community, they may not understand that that's the case. But I definitely agree.
Yeah, good. You guys are making good points that make me think of like 5 more questions because it does make a difference. First of all, when we say push, are they pushing you to do something that you actually can't do, or is it they want you to do a lot but they're there to support you? And then also, do they know something about community to start with? All of those things make a difference as to how I would respond. But I have frequently been, I don't want to say pushed, that has a negative connotation, frequently been thrown into the pool. But there's like a life jacket like right over there, so that's okay. I think it just depends.
So Ed over on Twitter asks, any advice on navigating an organization with no defined HR? Anybody have any advice on that? I mean, I would say, I'll just throw something out. I mean, at BTC Revolutions, we do not have an HR department, we have basically people who have different roles and responsibilities, and you just got to ask questions. I think from a navigation standpoint, you just seek those answers. Don't expect them to necessarily be delivered to you. Say, hey, where is that? Where is this? Where is that? And then also, I think you know, in an organization without HR, it's probably an organization that needs everyone collaborating together on work, right? So if you're looking for answers and not finding something, well, maybe there's a system in place. Maybe you have a company wiki. Maybe there's, you know, a series of Google Docs, whatever. You know, but ask, how can I help? How can I contribute? So the next person to onboard maybe has a place to find some of these answers. And so I think it'd be good to just step up a little too. Anybody else have any thoughts about the HR side?
I agree with what you said, Bert.
I would just say lean on your team, the people who have been there, and ask them what they would do in certain situations.
All right. So Patrick also has a question. He says, when transitioning inside an org, how have you nicely told people to stop including you in old job positions? Anybody have this problem?
I sort of had the slight rebellion because I transitioned from being e-commerce program manager and working with creating the strategy for both e-commerce and community for a crafting website to jumping into a different department really and building the community strategy for the health team. And in that case, it was more of an interesting situation because as a company, we were no longer working with this project at all. And so it was just a matter of making sure that that particular business owner had the information they needed. That was something that I was working on so that if they chose to move forward with it, they could. But at the same time, they understood that it was theirs going forward, and they were actually pretty okay with that. But it was really just being clear about like expectations and what was happening. And also, honestly, I never have a problem if people have to reach out and ask a question here or there on something that I was once a part of. I tell them all the time that that's fine. I told my recent team that as well.
Well, I haven't dealt with that change before, like within an organization, but prior to me joining this company in this role, there was another community manager who's still in this organization. She is still getting emails about the community and like other community related things, and she'll just nicely tell them that she's not in this role anymore, and then tell them that they can reach out to me, like I'm their new go-to person.
So how do you start building credibility with your company? Where do you start, and what are some of the things on your list to start building that credibility as the new person?
You know, I think
Recommendations and go ahead, David.
I was going to say, you know, your actions should speak for you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, in the first 3 weeks, they had problems and I had solutions. So it was easy to, you know, for them to say, you know, we're trying to do this, and for me to be able to say, well, I know how to do that, or I know I can learn how to do that quickly, or I have a way to get to it. So, you know, proof through action. I think if, you know, you want to be proactive, so, you know, just do what you need to do, and hopefully that will shine through. You know, they'll be able to see that they made that good by picking you from amongst the people that applied.
That's an awesome point. What I was going to just add in there is, if it is at all possible, if, say, the split between the last community manager was amicable, anything along the lines of a recommendation or a referral from that person, you know, through introductions and things like that, are really a great thing. You know, in one of our communities, we just have little you know, signatures that we do. It's just 3 nondescript letters, but the last one is, you know, an initial. And I was actually introduced to one of our larger communities from one of the other ones. And so in that, I had a little bit of credibility. Granted, that tweet just went out, and there wasn't maybe a ton of people that saw it, but at the same time, those are the types of people that I would then start to engage with and start to build out from there. because the ultimate goal, I think, for credibility is having people that are credible, community members that are credible, sort of signing off on you and buying into what you're doing. If there's problems and fires you could put out right away, like I have no doubt David is able to do, then that's awesome. But sort of using that network of referrals and working through your influencers that way, I think is a great way.
I've got kind of two tips as far as becoming credible. One is just asking what is something about my position that you could see immediate improvement. Right, you're there, you're new. Chances are there's someone before you, and so figure out what's the heartburn. What's that one thing that everyone wishes was better or fixed or changed, and fix it. And show them right away that you can take action. And then the second is get yourself a screenshot tool and make sure to use it and tell some great stories. Make sure you're showing people the great things that you're doing. And I think there's this fine line between being arrogant and kind of showing your great work. And you do want to brag a little bit, and you want to show people how much ass you're kicking, so I think showing those big wins, and figuring out how you can maybe better the reporting structure to report back up into the system is also a great way to start building credibility.
Yep, I like everybody's answers. And kind of what you were touching on, Brew, is basically the taking initiative, which is good to do in any role, whether you're a community manager or anything else. Taking initiative, understanding your boundaries. You don't want to take initiative that's outside the scope of your authority, as it were. But anytime you take initiative or show that you're not just logging hours, that you actually are putting thought into what you're doing, asking questions, expressing an interest in making improvements, I think is a good way to do it, and making sure you deliver on all the things that you promised, whether it was a job interview or however you got to the process where you came on board. At some point you claim to be a certain type of individual, so now it's time to prove it.
Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone said about taking the initiative to make changes. So I'm coming into an established community. I totally respect what everyone has done before I got here, and I don't want to make any major changes right away, but I see little things that I can improve on or refresh. I mean, like Bruce said, we're new to the community, so we're looking at it with a fresh set of eyes. And being experienced community managers, we can make good recommendations on that. So I've just been making recommendations on small changes and just now trying to make them go into production.
Earlier, I forgot that when we were doing introducing the panel, I also forgot to just give those special shout-outs to the people who help us over on Twitter, because they do a lot of work over there, and that's Carrie and Sarah. So just wanted to pause for a minute, little shout-out break, and say thanks for all that you do. Yeah, Dom.
I'm going to throw one other thing out there, and this is just because I know that we've had some of them on the panel before, and a lot of people that are over on Twitter do use Nerf. Guys, Nerf is actually in the middle of a Kickstarter right now, so that they can keep their stuff going. So make sure that you do, if you are on Nerf, I know that they have links and everything like that to be able to check out their Kickstarter, keep that awesome thing rolling, because it definitely is a fantastic tool that helps a lot of people, and I know that there are a ton of CMGR peeps that use it. So, yep, now back to the regularly scheduled program.
That was an awesome commercial break. I'm going to bring up another couple questions from our community. So Lydia asks, I have a question. I found out my recent CMGR role wasn't fully successful. There were issues in cross-culture communication and everything else. So how do I regain confidence? Anybody have any advice for Lydia?
you know, you're gonna fail. It's gonna happen. You know, what is it? Oh, there was a video. The kid president has a video out today, and if you can find it, watch it. But it's a graduation speech. So, kid president graduation speech. Somebody Google it real quick and put the link up on Twitter. But anyway, in there he says, if at first you fail, you're normal, or if you fail, you're normal. I mean, that's what you just have to accept, is that you're not going to be perfect every time. I mean, I try, but I don't often succeed every time. So you can't let it get you down. You just get back up and keep going. You know, learn from it. You know, there's an old saying that, I never lose. I either win or I learn something. So just find the lesson there.
David, that was a great quote.
Is your middle name tweetable, bro? It's just not fair, the amount of nuggets that you drop on a weekly frickin' basis.
Dude, I am the zen of community management.
Oh, man.
This is why I have repeatedly asked not to speak after David.
Yeah, but you also requested to be on panel with him, so...
Okay, you're going to bring that up right now?
Sherry has no chill. No chill.
All right,
It's
guys.
the opportune moment. I had no choice.
Jade, thanks for hanging out with us on this Friday. Jade asks, question for the panel. Where would you start if you're trying to build a community from scratch for a new company? So, like, not only new position, but new community, right?
Sorry, I'm just going to do another little commercial break here for a second. Jade wrote an awesome post about last week's Hangout all on her own without anyone asking her to, so you should definitely go check that out because that was pretty cool.
Man, that's good, because I am asked to write stuff about the Hangouts, and I don't always do it on time. So good job, Jade.
So with a new community, to kind of jump back to that, not to kill it, but with a new community, you get to build credibility, you're going to have to, actually, what's the question again? Because I totally lost myself.
Yeah, right on. It's all good. I'll just bring it up again. Let's see.
All right.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll fill in the gap.
I'm quick.
Dang, I wanted to go before David. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Go before me. Go. I'll give you the
Chris.
floor.
Okay, disclaimer, David's answer, whatever it is, will be better. No, but I was just going to say that I actually started a community. It was not for a business, but I started a community myself. And I think I did okay with it, and here's what I did. I basically just did a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of listening to figure out where the fragments of this community might already be living on the internet. And what their activity was like. So I think no matter what you're going to do in terms of starting something for a business, you have to do research first. That's thing one.
All right, and then David, just to repeat the question for you, Jade asks, where would you start if you're trying to build a community from scratch for a new company? So not only you got new company, new position, new community, new position, new company. It's all new all the time.
Okay, so I'm going to make some broad assumptions that you've done all the due diligence to determine that it makes sense to do a new community. That you've done everything, done your research, got your ducks lined up, everybody's on board, and they said, yes, let's go, new community. So first things first, you're going to go to your customers, your users, and you're going to find a core team of people that are going to help you get started. That are willing to contribute content, that are willing to be in there, that are going to go above and beyond. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to ask 100 people, 10 people are going to say they're going to do it, and one person is going to show up. So just know that you're going to have to just go hard and try and find these people that are willing to go so far above and beyond, that have the commitment that you have to the community. When you get that core group, you start small with a small little group and a test community, and you get them going, and you figure out how it's going to work and how you're going to present stuff, and it's constant iteration. Does this work? Does this not work? And you just keep going at it. And then once you've kind of got the layout of the community set, you have those core people start generating content. And because nobody wants to go to a party and be the first one there, right? So you want to have stuff to do and get it going. And once that is going, then you start inviting people in. You don't do a big launch, because big launches fail. They blow up. They're huge. They just are terrible. Start small, do a soft launch, keep inviting people in slowly, and then over time, once you get everybody in the community, there's a culture that's already there because you've started to established it already. The day that you're looking for is the day that the community starts producing more content than you and your core team. And when that happens, then you know that community is viable and survivable. And then you just have to nurture it and keep watching and iterating. But it's that core team at the very beginning that is you're either gonna have it and potentially succeed, or you're not gonna have it and you're gonna fail terribly. And if I was talking at 100 miles an hour, I'm sorry.
So, Jade, hopefully that answers your question. That was great. Thank you, David.
Yeah, so to add to what David said, that core group is going to need a lot of hand-holding, so be prepared for that, but it can pay off in the end.
For sure. Constance has, I think, a quick question here for us. Constance asks, is being a self-starter crucial for community manager success? And I'm going to go out on a limb and say crucial. Yeah, I think so. I think so because you'd rarely enter a company where they're like, here's the handbook and the processes and the guides for this job that's been around. Chances are you're entering new territory. I don't know. I think self-starter. I think it is crucial. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the most important, probably most important components. Or if nothing else, it's going to separate the really awesome ones from the run of the mill. I think.
Yeah, I would agree. You got to have the ability to take the initiative. But you've also got to be able to realize that you're going to, like I said, you're going to fail sometimes. But that's okay. Just keep trying.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. You need to be a self-starter, especially in newer communities. I was at 2 startups prior to their launch. There was no one before me. I didn't have as much resources. I definitely had to pave my own way. And even now at a large company, my role isn't very much operational. It's more projects-based and tactical. So I think it's crucial to be a self-starter and if you want to be a community manager.
I do want to make one distinction in that just because you need to be a self-starter doesn't mean you need to be an extrovert. I mean, you can be an introverted type of person and still be a good self-starter and still be out there and getting things done.
That's a great point. And I would even add to that it also doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a support system. You shouldn't be out there trying to build the pyramids on your own. Being a self-starter just means that you take your sphere and do the most with it that you can, but you should still have support.
And just to take it one point further than that, I think even more than being a self-starter is the goal and the dream is to be able to empower your community members to do the same thing. So you can start for yourself, and that's awesome. But you also want them to be the one that really take ownership of it and feel like they can, like what you said, Kristen, like you don't want to build the pyramids yourself, no, but you also would love for other people to start building pyramids on their own.
So great question. Great question, Constance. Jen, I just had to bring this up because it was fed to me, and it's funny. Jen asks, how on earth does historian talk that fast? It's because he's so dang smart. He's not really talking fast. He's just giving you just dropping knowledge. David asks, what's an example of a small change versus a big one? I don't know that I understand enough of that to answer that. Do you guys? Was that in context of something before that we missed?
I don't know. If we're talking about community, it could be, changing the title of a forum or a group to physically, like, moving it in the community. I mean, that's a small change versus a big change. Like, if you totally restructure a community, that's a big change, and that could really impact whether people want to continue using it or not.
Perfect. David also has another question. Do you use the community to crowdsource content, and can you ask too much of the community? So I did want to actually address the idea of crowdsourced content, which is that I think when with community, I don't look at that as crowdsource. I look at that as collaboration. I think the community lens, allows you to collaborate with the community versus, source material from them. I mean, what do you guys think about just in general crowdsourcing content, and can you ask too much of the community?
I work in an open source community, so we crowdsource content, code, documentation, like you name it.
I mean, I think that you theoretically could ask too much of your community, but it's if you're kind of getting the fundamentals right, that's not going to happen because you're not going to be. You already know that you're there to serve the community, not to try to take from them. So I don't think that happens a lot. I don't know.
All right, so boy, we really took in a lot of questions, and we have about 7 minutes left. So you guys here on the panel, you see the questions over to the right. Any of those you want to talk about next? Because we probably have time for one more question. Does anybody have? Geez, oh Pete's Dom. So you guys, it is panel's choice for the last question. Debbie,
So,
David.
okay, let's do
either of
number
you.
8. Let's do number 8. How about that?
Number
The last
8.
one on the list. So, how does transitioning community roles differ from transitioning industries? And I'm going to tie into what I said the first. You can leave a community, but the community doesn't leave you. So, because we're community people, because we tend to be out there and in front of people, I think that when you transition from a community, where it's possible, I think that the people that appreciate the things that you do and the way that you do them within a community will try and follow you. I know that within the gaming industry, if a community manager moves from game to game or company to company, that people will go with them, as just because they like the style and the way they do things, even if it's not necessarily a game that they will play. So I think in that way that transitioning from role to role there is different from other industries. I'm sure it's quite similar to the TV industry or the radio industry, where you can grow a following of a personal brand like that, and people will transition when you transition.
Yeah, as far as transitioning between community roles, I think that no matter what type of community you're in, people are still people, and basic principles of community still apply there. So you can apply what you've learned from other communities to many other types of communities. And then as far as transitioning industries, like in regards to like community management, so I went from like a review site to a travel site to a hardware company. It was very different, but I was passionate about each one, and each company had a very different type of community. Like travelers are a lot different than IT people and people who like to write reviews a lot. So going back to another question that we had earlier, I just kind of learned the lay of the land before I dove into that.
I have nothing good to add.
No.
It's already been said very well.
Sherry, have you gone between industries in your career, or kind of on the same industry?
Verticals more than industries, or it's all been kind of no, I don't know. Yeah, I have. Okay, I went from design to community to e-commerce strategy / community strategy to health community strategy / product strategy. Oh, and I skipped user experience and support community in the middle and partnership development. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have. But they've all tied, like, it was very easy for me to connect the dots in every single role. They all tied together, which is why my first answer was not really, even though I definitely have. And because of that, like, it was always a natural transition, so it was not really hard for me to transition between them. I think the difference in transitioning just from one community role to another versus another industry into community is more of what Debbie talked about in the beginning, where you do have this community that you took care of, and it's a matter of like helping someone else take over them, and at the same time like being like transitioning yourself away from the community too, because you've built those relationships and they don't just go away. In my case this time it was a little different because I led the community team more than I actually worked in the community. But that was a lot of community.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, what I kind of think about with this question about transitioning in between industries is, you know, in the early days of my community manager, you know, one of the things that attracted me to the community was when, you know, Tim was bringing in people who really were not community managers at all, right? And they were just successful in whatever they were doing, and then we'd talk about community management, and so many times, you know, the things that made them successful were the things that made us successful as community managers. And that's kind of what I thought about, Sherry, as you talked about, you know, it's really easy to connect the dots, because I think our role is one that is transferable between different industries pretty easily, because we are following the same disciplines. We're, you know, we're all a lot of the times it's some of the same problems that you're having to deal with, or the same ways to grow things. Certainly each community might have might look a little bit differently, but I think in general it's all the same song and dance. All right, guys. Well, it is time to go. I do see David putting on a new hat, though, so I just want to get that up on the screen real quick.
Got to change it up. Got to keep it fresh.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. All right, so Dom, Sherry, what do we have going on next week? From what I understand, we have built out our content for a while now.
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
So,
go ahead, Sherry. You're the one that built it out. I'm not going to take credit for that. I never know what it is.
Just,
so.
you know, take my spotlight, whatever. It's fine. No, I'm really excited because we're talking with Bill Johnston as well as Randy Farmer and Joe Cawthorell. Joe is from Lithium, and Randy and Bill are both doing independent community projects right now, I believe. But we're looking at kind of really just the collaborative economy and separating the hype from the actual opportunity there in the context of community. So it'll be really good.
Sounds pretty awesome. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. You guys here in the panel, of course, but then also everybody hanging out on Twitter. So we'll have a great weekend. Have a great Mother's Day to all the mothers. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel. Bye.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.